Menopause. What does that mean for you as a woman? For one woman, it meant loneliness, health problems, depression, despair, and even suicide. Hello and welcome to Season 8 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Krista Gun. My mission is to uncover the stories and strategies of Asian women entrepreneurs in Asia to help you and inspire you as you navigate your own business journey. This episode is sponsored by Redbox Studio. In today's episode, we meet Malaysian entrepreneur Karen Tan, who is the founder of Menoplus. Juggling her business, taking care of her family, and caring for elderly parents while navigating menopause led her to a dark place. She also experienced a slew of medical problems, from itchiness to hot flushes, coupled with frustration and sleepless nights. But from the depths of despair and a desire to figure things out came an aha moment, a turning point that ignited a mission to empower women on their own perimenopause and menopause journeys. Karen is optimistic and hopes that through her work she's able to offer support, encouragement, and help to other women who are facing menopause, the very same support that she was searching for when she herself was undergoing menopause. Through her workshops, she hopes to have more open conversations with women who are all going through midlife. So if you're heading towards menopause, this is the episode for you. Hello Karen, welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hi Krista, thank you for having me, and I'm so honored to be part of the program.
Karen, usually I will ask people, where are they physically located? Because that gives an idea where you are.
I am in sunny tropical Malaysia, up north in Penang, but actually born and bred in Kuala Lumpur. But due to family and wed marriage and all that, so I've been relocated here for the last 30 odd years.
And we are on the same island,
We are
on
the same island.
It's just that, except that we're not in the same physical location.
Correct.
Even though
Correct.
we are, right?
Opposite ends.
Yeah, on opposite ends. You reached out to me and then you told me a story that got you started on what you're doing right now. But before that, could you just give a little background of what you were doing before you came to this business?
It's a new startup per se, a very different business than what I used to do. So I'm a born and bred in Kuala Lumpur and trained as a hotelier. Love the business, and it was a pleasure to be able to serve people and to be in the industry where it's very vibrant, the hospitality industry. But then being a mom and having struggled with IVF for my children, I wanted to be more dedicated for my young kids for a while. So being in the hotel business is a 24/7 job. So working, it's a very difficult. I was a stay-at-home mom, but at the same time, during that time, I took up a lot of courses, upskilled myself, and dabbled in a lot of different businesses, but was very successful as a real estate agent, and then started to build a small chain of boutique heritage hotels. After which, from there, I managed to sell the business and then became a kind of like a hospitality management for small hotel business owners. Small meaning anything less than 150 rooms per building. And then I was managing for people and then training people how to manage hotels. And so, that was my career over the last couple of years, and been doing that for a long time. Loved it, but I felt that it was time to let go, because things change, priorities change, and I wanted something.
And your children grow up.
Yeah,
and
so
they
grew up, yes, and they left the nest. And then, of course, the challenge of COVID, which I'm sure not just myself, but many, many people, pandemic hit really hard, kind of made me, it was kind of a triple whammy of sorts, because not only the stress of the work, because it was a lot of retrenchments, a lot of things that I had to do and deal with. Two was, of course, I was without really thinking about it, was actually going through a massive hormonal change that caused me to be in massive depression. And then thirdly, I'm also a caregiver to my elderly parents. And my parents one of them had fell down and had to have a surgery. So it was like everything decided to happen around the same time, which also caused me emotional stress, as well as I was highly, highly stressed, which I felt that I needed to do something very quickly before I fall into a very dark, dangerous mental pit. At the end of the day, my idea of what life is changed as well, and I wanted to make sure that I don't want to go through the second half of my life regretting not trying or not doing the things that I should have done. I don't want to end up regretting and say, oh, I should have done this, or I should have done that. So I want to make sure that the second half of my life is things that I'm going to allow myself to give it a go and try.
So what an interesting journey that you have had for the past 30 years, right? Of coming to Penang, being in the hospitality business, and also at the same time running your own business and running other people's business, right? Helping them run their business, helping them manage their businesses.
Yeah.
And now, of course, we come to what you're doing right now, right? And which is also a very significant part of your life at this point.
Yes.
Because it is a conscious decision for you to do this.
Correct. Very much conscious. And I started out, so as I was mentioning, that during that period, I had to let go of everything and actually kind of reboot my life, if that makes sense. I allowed myself to rest and rethink what I want in my life. One of the things that really triggered me was how, when I was going through the menopause depression, the ideas of suicide, the loneliness, the lack of information that is out there, made me very passionate to want to create a community and actually create a safe space for women to talk about it and to understand their state of mind, the changes in their body, and understand that there's help, but the most important thing is to get the right information so that you can self-advocate for yourself. That is my goal for the women here in Malaysia.
So your business centers around educating and raising awareness about menopause, right?
Yes, correct.
And when you first started and you say there was a lack of resources or lack of community support, what were the first of people that you talked to gave this idea that, okay, maybe there's something here?
I think it was just stemming from my own personal experience. So when I went through it, I was searching online. Of course, it was COVID, which makes things very difficult. So the only thing we could resource was anything online and all that. So I could not find any community, which is even within Asia per se. I don't know. There was just no outlet. I started to find and join groups that are based in the UK and US. And then one of the things, of course, there's nothing wrong, but culturally there's that difference, and obviously they are more open and ready to talk about it. So what I did was I said, well, I'm sure this is not just happening there. I'm sure Malaysians are also going through all this. So my idea is, because I had, and it's very real, it's very personal to me, about that depression and how it's very hard to shake off that depression and negativity if you don't have support to help you. Albeit we have to accept the support as well. We must be, when someone reach out the hand, we must be able to accept that hand and hold us up as well. As of the 1st of January in 2023, I started a YouTube channel that we talked about these things, and I started the Facebook and social media. Bear in mind, I'm not someone who is social media savvy whatsoever, but I said, there's nothing wrong in giving the education. I'm not saying that I'm a medical expert, but I got medical experts to talk to me. I got people who I knew who are very good at taking care of their body and their health holistically to talk to me. So I then disseminate this information. I am not here to advocate that what treatment you should do or what is best for you. You have to decide, because every person's body is different and how you react is very different. But I'm here to say that whatever you're feeling, whatever symptoms that you have, take it seriously. Take it seriously and acknowledge that your body is changing, and try to find ways to mitigate and control this, because the mental health perspective is very important. Because to me, women are generally nurturers. We give ourselves to our husbands, we give ourselves to our family, we take care of our elderly, our parents, but we don't take care of ourselves, and we are very, very, very harsh to ourselves. We are very cruel to ourselves. We are very unkind to ourselves, and I think that it's time that to say, hey, it's okay to spend half an hour that I take care of me for a while, and before I can take care of others. How can you give the best of yourself if you can't, if you are not in a good place? So now let me ask you, Krista, if do you think you are a better wife and a listener when you're in a good mood?
For sure.
And if you are in a happy, calm state of mind, do you think that you are able to give better advice to yourself or to the people around you?
Definitely.
So I think it's time for people to recognize that, and that when you have anxiety, when you are stressed, when you are not sleeping well because you're having all these hot flushes and the night sweats, or you get the fatigue, then the fatigue becomes mood swings. Then mood swings became weight gain, and then the weight gain hits your overall confidence, and then the overall becomes your mood swing, and then the mood swing becomes depression. So it really is a very vicious.
It's a cycle, right?
Yeah, exactly. So of course, there's no miracle that can say, I got one item that can fix all these problems. No, there's nothing, not even HRT, nothing. But it is tackling one thing at one time, and then when you start to feel a little better, you take on to the next thing. And that's what I'm trying to teach women, that if you don't listen to your body when you are at the early stages, you may pay for it heavily at the end, at the later stages. So menopause traditionally hits women around 50 to 55. That definition of menopause is when 12 months you don't have your menses, that's it. Now, some lucky women don't have many symptoms, which is great. But the problem is there are more and more women who are actually experiencing perimenopause as early as 35 years old. So you may be having all this problem for like a good 15 years before you actually hit menopause. So
can I ask you, Karen, when you say perimenopause, it means that they experience the symptoms,
right? Yeah,
the symptoms off and on for the next 15 years.
Correct. Yeah. So the perimenopause, for most, it could be maybe the period is not very regular, heavy, painful stomach cramps, Then of course the moodiness, the fact that they are not able to deal with stress, and they get irritated with their spouse or their children very easily. Very easy to get triggered off. They're not able to sleep. Now, all this comes from the hormonal imbalance. I can talk about this for hours and hours, meaning when the depletion of this hormone, and we are not just talking about progesterone and estrogen, we are also talking about testosterone, which is also part of our body. When all this depletes, the thing is, it hits your brain. Studies have shown that when this depletion starts, that's why women suffer more the possibility of dementia and Alzheimer. Then the fact that when your progesterone is lower, progesterone is a calming hormone. So it helps you to stay calm. It's what I call the nice, calm sister, whereas estrogen is the party sister. So it's the one that makes you get a bit more daring, makes you have more energy, makes you strong, because that's when you want to build muscles as well as testosterone. And then of course testosterone is also makes you sexually active because you are more easily aroused and you have the more daring kind of thing, you want to do things. So when the progesterone level lowers, this is actually why women suddenly will tear up. And if someone scolds them at work or something, then they go like, oh my God, and they tear up. They have no reason why, because the levels of progesterone has just dropped. They are unable to control, they're unable to cope with the stress and anxiety. So when people start to relate all this, and if you know, and the thing is, it's just a matter of taking the right food or doing the right thing can already help you raise your mood overall. And that's why I'm trying very, very hard to educate and say that this is not normal. This is not normal because women around 35 to 40s, they are busy with children. They're busy building careers. They're busy trying to be the superwoman and not asking for help, because women are the worst when it comes to asking for help. And therefore, they will all, when these symptoms appear, they will say, normal, I've been so busy at work, that's why this is normal, it's okay, well, everything will be fine. And then, bam, menopause hits. And this is where the depletion goes even further. And by this time, when you are kind of post-menopause, the level of bone health, your calcium, your magnesium, all starts to. That's why women is important that they do weight training. They must take their vitamin D. They must increase their calcium and magnesium, because then the bone density, the osteoporosis starts to the chances of it happening is increased. But I think the more silent killer that I have lost a few friends is heart attack. Because they think they can function like they are in their 40s, but they forgot that the estrogen level has already started to deplete substantially, affecting their heart stress, and therefore they get heart attack, the cardio health. Yes, we put on weight, obviously. Sometimes I say, even if I get seafood diet, I look at the food, I put on 10 kilos, right? If you know, then you have to change your diet. Because the problem is, we expect to eat like we were in our 30s, but the body is not reacting when we were in the 30s. So you have to start shifting and changing up your diet, do different things. So my challenge is actually, women are very good at, if you have a daughter and say, you have to take your ginseng soup, mommy made this for you, so good for your lungs and all those things, right? To take care and make sure that she keeps well and all that. That's in her 20s. Then in her 30s and 40s is a different sort of herbs and everything. But why we are not taking care of that for ourselves?
That's very true. A lot of women will take care of other people better than they take care of themselves.
Exactly. And so I'm just saying, shift that. If you take care of yourself, number one, you don't burden your children in the long run. Your children will have a chance to be with you and enjoy the mommy that is strong and healthy and mentally sound, that they can have conversation with. That's number one. Number two, if those who are very traditional, I don't want to bother my children, then you don't bother them. You don't have to call them and say, I'm sick, take me to the hospital, or I just fell down, take me to the hospital. I'm saying, if you take care of it now, your chance of aging gracefully, aging strong is so much better. And of course, there's no 100% in life. I wish there were. But at least if you have done everything you can, then you will age a lot more gracefully, and you will have that kind of energy that you need to be a better mom and a better grandma, and maybe even a better great-grandma to your family.
So in terms of Menoplus, is a safe space, is a community. What can people, or what can women, actually it's not open to men, right? Or is it open to men also?
Yeah, eventually, actually, I want to open to men too, because I think it's important that also helps support, because it takes a village. It does take a village. And it's something that I feel that I've been very blessed. My husband has been my rock in all this, in helping me through my menopause, and just being super supportive with everything. So that helps, obviously. Let me just say, the community itself is called Women in Midlife. So you can find me at Women in Midlife Asia Support Facebook. Basically, I give out a lot of write-ups, free PDF about basic stuff about HRT and supplements and exercise routines. Then I also give out, we do a lot of podcasting where we talk about all the emotional changes that women go through. And so that is the part where it's more community-based. I am organizing webinars, as well as now that we can do more face-to-face workshop. So these are occasions that I bring in doctor friends and all that to talk about HRT, about breasts, how to check for lumps, how to spot something unusual when you have an irregular periods, and then what are the things that you should be aware of, as well as the holistic practices. How to manage stress is a big component, because stress is really the cause of a lot of diseases for us today, with the world shifting so fast, and we are like constantly catching up to technology, to with the way that we live. So I really want people to learn how to manage their stress properly. So that's one component. But the other section is called Menoplus. So Menoplus is something quite new, which I started. In my journey, I always remember as a young child, my mom would make all these Chinese herb soups, and they say, drink it, it's all good for you. It was so bitter, and the house would smell very strong for 4 or 5 hours, boiling these black thick soups and stuff like that, all this herbal concoction. And so I said, okay, because HRT was just not an option for me due to my health. And I always say, Mother Nature or God or the universe always provides for us. And I'm saying, why don't we tap into that and see what it may provide and that we could use again. So I did go on a journey where I went to India to look for Ayurvedic solutions, as well as traditional Chinese seafood, to learn from them basic what are the things that are considered the best for all these healthy things. And I decided that with our lifestyle, to kind of create something that is easy to drink, fast to prepare, and it's just mix and drink, and it's all food grade, that it doesn't harm us in any way, or it's just food grade, which means if your body rejects it, it will just be maybe peeing it out, and that's it. There's nothing that is harmful to it. So it's called Menoplus, and it helps with 15 different symptoms of menopause. And one of the most important for me was hair and skin improve, like literally in 6 months, just improve so much. And then joint pains, when your estrogen and all these hormonal drop, I started having plantar fasciitis. I had tennis elbow, frozen shoulder, non-stop. It was just not one thing after another, and that also makes it very difficult to go and exercise. And that's what another reason why we put on weight, because we are not exercising, So all these things kind of adds up, and then after taking this, I'm very alert. I don't have major brain fog, and night sweats and hot flushes have reduced tremendously. Sometimes you get it, but it's not as bad. And I think most of all, just generally, just in the overall scheme of things, my day is more pleasant than it would be if I don't try and do something about it.
So if I understand correctly, it means there are different parts of your business, right?
Yeah.
One is the events, workshops, public awareness talks about menopause. Yeah. And then there's one part where it's the products that you have that help women with their menopausal symptoms. But what made you want to organize events? Because organizing events is also another different thing altogether, right?
Very much. I'll be honest, organizing events is a loss maker. I'm not here to make money. I just want to at least just cover the overall cost and make sure that people come. That's my first priority. I think we have been so isolated and so cut away from human touch and human connection. I personally feel that sometimes it's just a friend's touch on your hand and say everything will be fine. We can get through this together, can make such a big impact. And I'll be the first one to admit, even when coming out of COVID, I became a hermit. I was very happy to stay at home, don't go out, just, that kind of thing. Human beings are social beings. And with internet, with the world that we live in, we become this devoid of that human touch, the face and expression. I think that's the reason why I wanted to do a face-to-face, because I feel that I can at least give you a hug and say, hey, it's not just you. We are all going through it. So please don't think you are going crazy, because I was crazy and I'm okay now. And that's what I'm trying to reach out to women and say, don't think you are going through this by yourself. There are people who genuinely, I have been reached out by some of my community and said that how they felt so relieved that someone, they thought that whatever they were feeling, or the funny itchiness or the funny feeling that they're getting, is just them. And I said, don't worry, I got them as well. It comes, it goes. You got to say,
they're not going crazy, right?
They're not going crazy. Yeah. And that depression is real. And at work, women who goes to work and where they have younger colleagues or even men who makes fun of them, how do you deal with that? And that's where you need a good friend and say, hey, it's okay, walk away, do something to relax and then go back to it, and then there's so many component of it that makes sense, just to have someone to call up and say, hey, I feel like I'm alone here. And then if someone just say, no, you're not alone, we are here, we've been through it, do this and do that, and take action. The other thing is taking action. And I think a lot of people are very hesitant to take action when it comes to themselves. It's very easy
Such
to tell
as,
people.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, especially women, right? It's very easy to tell your son, okay, you should go wake up at 6 o'clock and go and run and exercise, and all that. Then why don't you do it, right? So,
It's easier
like,
to give advice than taking advice.
Exactly, right? It's also very easy to say to your daughter, oh, take that soup, and then your daughter will say, oh, but it's so bitter. It's okay, take it. It's good for you. It's good for you. But why aren't you doing it for yourself, where you take the whatever supplements or vitamins that can help you, so that you can feel stronger as well? So it's somewhat an Asian behavior, or more a woman's behavior, where after a while we have this tendency is that we think we have to be right all the time with our children, especially, or even with our husbands, that we have to be right. Maybe it's saying,
or have the last word.
Yes, exactly. Don't you agree? Which I think, and it's not, because we don't know everything. We don't. And it's okay to say, hey, actually, maybe you're right, maybe I don't know, and have a conversation about it. And like, I had such a good conversation with my daughters, because I used to think that way, that only mommy's right. You just follow exactly what mommy say. And then now that they're grown up, and then we have better conversation, and that builds relationship. Then I know what they are going through, and they now giving me advice on how to do certain things, and I'm open to it. Being open to it, because you have to trust that you brought up amazing children, and they are great, and they are smart, and therefore listen to them.
One of the things that I wanted to find out is, what are some of the challenges in menopause, but in terms of generally entrepreneurial challenges, when you were running your business and all that?
Prior to doing the hospitality, it's a different industry altogether. And then now I'm doing something which is very social media, e-commerce, all that kind of thing. I think one of the things that I've learned is truly to eat humble pie, and full respect to content creators, people who churn out content on a daily basis, even when sometimes there's nobody listening to you. And then learning, and be very open to learning. The problem, I think, is older folks. When I say older, meaning in our 50s, late 40s, where they always say, oh, in those days, we did this and we did that. I think you got to stop that. Because those days is gone. So you got to start to listen to the young people today, and they're not stupid. They're not incompetent. They do know. And if you allow that conversation to be had with them, you, as the older person, can learn so much from them. And I respect that very much more than I would before. That's number one. So open to learning. Number two is the technology space really challenged me a lot. So
did you have to learn from scratch?
Yes, for sure. I had to learn from scratch, and I took crash courses to do everything. And I'm glad I did. I mean, it's challenging. It still is, but I'm glad I do, because it's like you feel so much happier, because you're like, oh, I know what they're talking about, or you know what they're relating to, and how to do certain things. So I'm very challenged by that.
Can you give me an example of that? I'm very curious too.
For instance, like digital marketing. I have no idea, because we come from old school, where got such thing as digital marketing, right? Marketing means marketing. You go out, you sell, you tell people what to do and all those things, right? And that is something that I learn again, but there's no formula, if that makes sense. There's no template to say, if you follow like this, it will exactly work out. So the world that we live in is it really is, you have to give it a go and try, and you keep modifying until certain things click. Now, I don't know about you, but we come from a generation where we are very methodical. Everything is like you have to be a doctor, accountant, lawyer, engineer kind of mindset, and everything has to be. I'm for one somehow very brainwashed that everything has a procedure. So I learn now to see things in a much broader viewpoint and not be such a stickler that it has to fit into that mold so much.
Or like it has to be done in this way.
Yeah.
Like this is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Something like that.
The
Yeah.
only steps to do it.
Correct. Like if you say, oh, you have to drive from this A point to C to E to get to Kuala Lumpur. But you got to be flexible and malleable enough to keep changing, because as long as you get to Kuala Lumpur, you may not have to touch C or E before you get to Kuala Lumpur. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get what you mean. I understand.
Yeah.
It means that it's not like there's a fixed formula. There's no fixed formula for this.
No.
It's just that you're doing it, but at the same time, when you're doing it, you're kind of fine-tuning, modifying, experimenting, and going back to maybe 3 steps before, and doing more to see at the end, all we want is that result, right? The outcome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but the steps can be messy.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what I find doing this new era of running e-commerce and social media, if you go in a mindset of, oh, I want everything to be exactly the way I have planned it out, you are setting yourself up for failure, because everything changes, and the change is very fast. Sometimes it's like it could be just seconds, and then just could be a small thing, something tweak, and then suddenly, oh, people like it, and that's it, and then suddenly you have a lot of likes, and maybe something we did and you thought it was perfect, but there's nobody enjoyed that whole episode. But maybe something that you go off and say, oh my God, that was the worst podcast ever, and then suddenly it became the most popular podcast, right? For me, I can only speak from my experience, is that because I'm someone who is too much of a planner, and I want everything to be so step by step kind of thing. I have to learn now that I cannot be that way. I really have to allow that the last minute change, the last minute tweaking, and slowing down and moving faster, and then sometimes just sprinting, that kind of thing. So yeah, so those are the things that I feel doing the new world business is like, and really, really thinking out of the box in how you give out the message. That is something that I feel I have learned while doing this in the last 15 months.
So you were saying 1 and 2. Is there a 3? Is there a 3 for the challenge?
3 would be because you are very exposed to a lot of people, because you want to be authentic, you want to be yourself. The world can be very cruel, and they can say nasty things. You really have to grow a very thick skin to not get to you. So the third thing is be really strong and be really very, very sure of your why before you start something like this. Very, very sure, because the journey that people tell you about e-commerce and all these podcasts, they seem to tell you like, oh, it's so easy, you make money, no problem, it's bullshit. I'm telling you, it's bullshit. That doesn't exist. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. patience. And in order to sustain in the long haul, you have to be your authentic self. You have to be your authentic self, because if you are faking it, you won't last that long haul, because it is a slow burn. It does take time to build that kind of community that you want. And so that is something that I am personally being challenged on a daily basis, because sometimes it seems like there's no response. It's like, how come no one's texting me to talk? And I think one of the things with the community is Asians don't respond. They just generally don't participate. And that is very frustrating. So
sometimes it feels like you're talking to the void, right? Like,
yes. It's like open space. Who's there? Listen to me.
But I do agree, because in many ways, a lot of things that we do in the beginning is always like, it's as if you're talking to yourself. Like you're having a conversation with yourself, right?
Yeah.
But that's sometimes the building up of the community, perhaps like you say in the Asian context, because people are more reserved. People don't want to be the first one to say something or to mention something. And somewhat it's a topic that's like menopause. And that's maybe something you can address too. Like women don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Women just want to feel that, it's just like, okay, we'll just zip through that. And then that's it, right? We don't want to talk about the hot flushes, the night sweats and stuff like that.
Right.
We're all trying to pretend that everything is nice and cool and fine, right?
Exactly. But reality is not. And we all, honestly, half the world population is going to go through it. The severity will differ, of course, but we're going to have to go through it, and we have to accept. And then if we support each other, then it makes it easier. Because if you understand what the hell is going on, you know that, this is because I'm not, I'm having a lack of this, or get yourself tested and say, okay, maybe it's lack of testosterone, maybe it's estrogen. Then you can tweak your diet so that you feel better. Do yoga to reduce your stress, and then do something, a night routine, so that your night become more smooth and you have better quality sleep. There's so many things that you can do, but it takes time. And you know what, Krista? Human beings are very lazy. Always take the easy way out. So when you want something quick and fast for quick result, there are solutions, but it doesn't last forever. So the question is, are you willing to put in a little effort, take the more natural route, build in a habit that is good for your routine, like doing your yoga, doing 10 minutes of meditation in the morning, do some stretches before you sleep, all the little things become habitual, that it becomes part of your routine, that you feel like, okay, that's good. Now I feel better. I feel calmer.
It's also about cultivating those habits into our lives, right? It's not just like instant, like I want an instant fix to this problem that I'm having, or this issue, or this situation in my life. I just want, and you don't like not talk about it, right? You gloss over it, or say, there's nothing, it's a small matter, because every woman goes through it.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. And if you don't address it, or if you don't acknowledge that it's going, how can you get the right help? How can you go to the doctor and say, okay, I think I'm really going through menopause? Because for years, let me tell you my story. For years, I keep telling my doctor, I think I'm going through menopause, perimenopause. They said, no, you're too young. So they refused to do tests, and I was ignorant. I didn't know. So they kept saying, maybe it's your thyroid. It could be a thyroid. And I spent a lot of money. Run this test, do MRI. Why my pains here and there, and then you keep thinking something is wrong, because you say, you first thyroid, then nothing happened. it went away for a while, and then things starts to come back again. So without your knowing, you actually spend a lot more money jumping from one doctor to another, and then you're doing physio and you're doing this and you're doing that, and then I was like, finally when I knew, and on hindsight, now I realize that I've been suffering this at least for 12 years before I actually went into a full-on menopause. And I'm surprised. I'm surprised I survived, seriously, because there was so many instances that I think back that I could have killed myself several times over. Suicide was a real thing, and I just don't want this for women at all. No one deserves to be in that dark space that they cannot see light. They can't see that they have a great life. So, yeah, that's why. That's my big why.
Thank you for sharing that, Kat. But I just also wanted to ask you, if not for your menopause and you undergoing all those terrible menopausal symptoms and having a tough time and all that, almost suicidal, right? If it was not that, you wouldn't have come to start what you're doing right now. Which is also kind of strange, right, in a way, because of that powerful, belief that no one should go through it the way you went through it. Then you decided, okay, I'm going to start this community, this startup of yours.
Yeah. I mean, that is why I wanted to do it, because it's just to open up that conversation. I'm not saying I can help everyone, but at least my idea is bring up the right specialists, bring up the right information, so that anyone who happened to listen and say, hey, I didn't notice, actually I got some funny hair growing out here. I look like a man now. So it's like, okay, maybe it's due to that. I should go and get checked. And the funny thing is, well, it's not funny, but a lot of studies have indicated hormonal studies until the 70s were only done on men, not on women. And until the late 90s, most of this was still done on Western women, not on Asian women. So there's actually not enough Asian women tested and studies for our body in the way we react to all the medication that, like all the HRT options and things like that are available now. And a lot of our gynaes and all that, they tend to just brush off the symptoms and say, oh, never mind, you'll go through it. It is not the way to go about. If that's what I'm saying, that it's not just to say, oh yeah, you just get through it, no worries. With science, with medical advancement, we are able to live much longer than we used to. The question I have to ask for all women today is, do you want to go through the next half of your life feeling miserable, suicidal, depressive, and without any passion for life, for whatever you do? Or do you want to go through where you are passionate about something, you're passionate about helping a association or the people, and that you want to travel and you want to move around? Your choice. The choice is yours. The solution is all out there. You decide.
But the first step is to acknowledge it, right? That you actually are undergoing menopause, and actually normalizing and having conversations about that.
That's my basic goal, Krista. That's what I'm trying to do. Have more conversations so that we say, oh yeah, I'm going through that. Oh, I can't have sex because it's so painful down there, and that I want to have sex. I want to be intimate with my husband, but yeah, it's just not working. So what should we do? So let's have a conversation how to create intimacy without the pain, intimacy could be any other form of intimacy. It could be holding hands, could be a snuggle, whatever. But at least if we have that conversation, I think we will have much better relationship with our spouses and partners.
Okay, so thank you, Karen, for that introduction to talking about something that we should all be talking about.
Yeah,
right.
I hope I can get more people to join in and have more conversations on it.
So where can people find you now? Since you've spoken about different things that you're doing.
Most importantly, join the community. It's Facebook, and you can Google us at wim.asia support, or you can find us at Your Menoplus, Your YOUR Meno, and then plus PLUS, where you find that it's interlinked, so you get that. You can also go to my website at www.menoplus.co, where also the community will be highlighted.
I mean, sooner or later we get to that stage where we have to undergo that process.
Yeah.
Our body is changing in a different way. But of course, if we are able to manage those symptoms that we have, our lives can be far more manageable rather than trying to, like you said in the beginning, right? You get into a dark place and you're not too sure what's happening and you think you're going crazy, but actually you're not. So
you're not. That's why I hope I can tell that to the ladies, that don't think you're alone. There are a lot of us, and that's my goal, is just open up conversation and then give support to anyone who feels a bit down and say, hey, no, you're not down. We're all good. We're all going to be all right.
It's a good way to, at least start the ball rolling somehow, right? At least if someone, whoever who's listening to us, who feels that they want to do something right now, they can reach out to you and they can join your community.
Yeah. Anytime. There's no cost.
So thank you so much, Karen, for this conversation about menopause.
That was Karen Tan, the founder of Menoplus, who shared her story of undergoing menopause. What is interesting these days is that women are more open about having conversations about menopause. In the past, it was probably something that we just ignored or pretended didn't exist. Nowadays, many of my friends are frankly sharing how they're experiencing menopause, but also how they are taking back their power by having conversations and doing something about it. I believe it is so important to take care of our health. Now, especially now, because we are entrepreneurs, we are our business's greatest asset. As an Asian woman, I grew up drinking the bitter herbal brew that Karen spoke about. While my sisters hated the herbal brew, I actually enjoyed it, and I still made button tang for myself until today. If you want to learn more about Karen and learn more about her Menoplus community, you can find all links on our show notes in womenpreneurasia.com. And if you know someone who could benefit from the resources and support Karen offers, share this episode with the women in your life. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support this podcast, remember to follow us on Instagram and Threads. Threads is my new social media place that I'm currently hanging out at. I started becoming more active just a few weeks ago, so join me and let's start a conversation over there. Just search for Womenpreneur Asia on Threads and you will find me, and it's 100% me, not some VA and not some bot. Until then, take care, and I will see you next Friday with another brand new episode.